Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I am back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Spellbinders. I am using the Birthday Cheers dies, the Ganache Gâteau dies, and then this plaster 3D embossing folder, which actually doesn't go with this. The other two are from the Bougie Birthday collection, and this plaster one is actually, I think, one of Simon Hurley's collections. But nonetheless, we're going to use it to create texture on our cake. So I had bought this set quite some time ago in order to make my sister-in-law's birthday card. I thought that it would be like very fun for her birthday, and my husband's family has a lot of July birthdays. So my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, and my father-in-law are all in July. So I've been, I have a lot of birthday cards to make, and Mallory was a huge help to us with everything that was going on with my mom. So I wanted hers to be kind of extra special. And that's why you see all of this specialty cardstock. I'm going to use that to make this like the most sparkly, super fun birthday card that I can create. And if you don't have specialty cardstock like this, then I'm going to show you how you can make it glittery, whether you want it to be or like whether you bought it that way or not. So here, I was going to cut everything out of white and then color it originally before I was like, no, I want it to be super special and like extra. And so then that's when I decided I was going to switch over to the specialty cardstocks. So originally I was going to cut the cake and the ganache layer out of the craft. I ended up not using that cake layer. It looked better with the white. So I am going to change that later on, but I cut the accessories. So the icings, the macarons, the little circle banners out of several different colors. So I used a white glitter, a black glitter, a silver mirror, and then I also used their cardstock. I used Dahlia, which is the darker pink, and I think the lighter pink is blush, but I'm not 100% sure. So here, this is that plaster 3D embossing folder. Love this. Lots of texture. I think that you could do so many different fun things with this, but I'm going to use it on our cake. So this is the one out of craft. I did not end up using this, but I wanted you to see what it looks like when with the ink blending and the marker. So if that's something you're interested in, I can absolutely revisit this. I really like this set and I'd be happy to make another birthday card with it. But nonetheless, we're going to move on to the coloring of the ganache layer. I'm using my Olo markers today. And so basically I'm going to add some darkness to the bottom of each of the drips, and then across the top and the back of like where the side of the cake would be meeting the top of the cake. And then from there, I'm going to bring in my lighter colors. I'm going to go over that dark and start to kind of fade them in. On the top, the highlight portion is going to be directly in the center. On the bottom where the drips are, the highlight is actually going to be a little bit lower. I did end up coloring the bottom portion, the drippy portion, twice just to make sure that I was getting enough contrast for it to look more realistic. But I use the same colors each time. So before we get too far into this, I do want to mention I had actually already pulled these out to make the things with, and then Spellbinders announced on Wednesday that they were having a buy one, get one free sale, which is a really great sale. I mean, you know that. It's not like a buy two or a buy three. It's a buy one, get one free. Obviously, the free one is the one that is the lesser price, but this collection is included. Which I think is great. There's also a lot of other ones, a lot of other collections that are included where you can kind of get, a couple of the pieces and pay for two of them and get two free, or one of them and get one free, whatever, you're into. But they have a whole section on them. And this is, and I've talked to you guys a lot about this when it comes to sales, they have a lot of, what do they call them now? They used to be nestabilities back in the day when Spellbinders, when it was a little bit older. I don't think they call them those now. But anyway, they're the nesting dies. So like the arches, or there's a mirrored arch, I think. one. I like that one a lot. But anyway, those are on sale too. And those are great because those are normally a little bit of a higher price point because you're getting so many dies and you can get one of them for free. So basically, you're getting two for, one price, which I'm totally here for because I'm cheap. So anyway, once I decided to switch over to the white, I added a little bit of shading to the left and the right with pumice stone, which is a warmer grayish color. I didn't want it to have no shading, but I didn't want to go over the top with the shading because I still wanted it to appear white. So I did add a little bit of shading underneath where that ganache layer is. And then I started messing around with putting everything together. So why can't I think? I'm like, it's a seashell border, but it's the frosting, like the frosted tip to make the seashell border at the bottom. This one is meant to, some of them are just like plain flat. Some of them are two, and then some of them are singles. So it kind of, one layer, 2 layers, 3 layers. It just depends on what the shell is. I think we could also use these to do the top, like where that ganache met. I want to kind of play around with that. So if you do want to see that chocolate cake, let me know, because I could maybe play around with that a little bit. And then we're going to do the macarons in both of the pinks with white filling, and we're going to add shading to all of those with our Olo markers. So I was saying before, Mallory was an enormous help to us when my mom was sick and we were trying to take care of her, because if I wanted Caitlin to see my mom, I could not send Caitlin to daycare because my mom basically had no immune system, and daycares or schools, children in general, are petri dishes, as mine are, because they're exposed to all different kinds of germs. So I couldn't have her exposed to anybody outside of the family because I didn't want to get my mom sick. So that meant a lot of juggling of the schedule, and my sisters and I used to get together like every Sunday, and we would go over the schedule, who could do what, who was going to be the daytime person, who was going to be the person who spent the night. I was always on call because I live in the same development as my parents. So like the things we needed to do in the middle of the night, whether it was, get her up to go potty or, whatever, you needed 2 people for. So we were able to work with one person spending the night and me being on call. Now, when I spent the night, my other sister is about 5 minutes away. So I could always call her if I needed somebody. And we just found a way to make it work because, that's what you do. Like, you only get one mom, and I would do it every single day for the rest of my life if God had given me that option. But unfortunately, he did not. I shouldn't say unfortunately, because I don't want, like, if the options are her living in pain or me having to deal with my grief, then I would rather deal with my grief than have her in pain. And I'm sure if you've lost somebody, you can totally understand where I'm coming from with that. But anyway, Mallory took several days where she is a nurse. And so she worked 12-hour shifts, or, she had full days off, and she would pretty much donate her day off to coming to our house and hanging out with Caitlin so that I could be down there with my sisters and I could be spending that time with my mother, which is incredible. When my mom passed, we needed somebody to sit with Caitlin. We made the decision not to take her to the funeral, and this is no judgment. Everybody is different. Me personally, like when my grandmother passed away, I was only 4, and the only memories I have are of her funeral. It's bizarre. I feel like this is such a weird topic to talk about while we're doing this, but anyway, let's go back here. So here, I wanted to incorporate that black in, not just in the border, but also into the sentiment. And now it's like this huge glittery, sparkly sentiment, which I love. So I chose the happy birthday. There is another birthday set, that goes with this. And I think it's like, it has fabulous in it. And then there's another numbers one. So you could be like, 40 and fabulous, or flirty 30, or the other one is sassy, which honestly, I might go back and get that particular set only because my daughter is so sassy and I may need it to make her birthday card later this year. She's given me and her father a run for our money. Talk about the card. So here I am using the warm grays to add some shading to the whipped cream, and to the filling of the cookies. Also then the icing. And then I picked out a couple of different pinks, darker ones for the dahlia, lighter ones for the one that I think is blush. I'm not 100% positive. I will link it. I promise. I'll double check. And then I'm just going to add the shading right underneath it. You could absolutely do this before you put it together, but I didn't have any issue shading it once it was all together. And honestly, it made it a little bigger for me to be able to hold on to it. So anywho, we made the decision not to take her to the funeral, but we wanted her. I didn't want her at the service, because my husband and I were not going to be in a place mentally where we were going to be able to care for her. It wasn't going to happen. And, so I needed someone to sit with her until the service and the burial was over. So that way she could then come to the luncheon. And lo and behold, my sister-in-law came to the rescue yet again. And I'm going to get a little choked up here because it just meant so much to me. I called her and I was like, hey, can you do me a favor? And the first words out of her mouth were literally, whatever you need. I will do whatever you need. And there are not that many people, in life who will literally just be like, whatever you need me to drop to do for you, where you're at in life, I'm here, I can do it, I'm your person. And I'm very, very grateful for her. So anyway, let's talk about let's go back to the card. So here, I knew you can fit this cake on an A2 card, but not with a double stacked sentiment, which is what I wanted. So I know I'm going to need to fit this into a 5x7 envelope. So what you see in the background is a piece of cardstock that is cut to 5x7, but I'm doing a shaped card. So this is really only just going to be a placeholder for me. So that way I know it's going to fit in the envelope because it fits on this card. So I am being very careful about how much glue I'm putting down because I don't want it to stick to that cardstock and me to have to run the risk of ripping it off. So I am being very aware of where I put my glue, but these two little posts, that's what holds up the sentiment, which is honestly in real life, having been the person who's made all of my kids' birthday cakes except for 2, that is how they come in real life. They sit that way. Now, I did put the little colored banners behind the happy birthday, and I have to tell you, I don't know that I'm 100% married to them. I put them together, and I like the little pop of color that they add, but I think it makes it more difficult to read the sentiment. So while you will see them on the card, before I give it to her, I don't know if they'll still be there when I give it to her. I think it just makes it more challenging to read. But I do think if you're doing one of the other ones like Cheers or something like that these are a great idea. Or if you're doing something that's not a birthday, and you just want to do a cake, you can use those little decorative banner pieces there to use the posts and have decoration without the sentiment being the part that's hanging. You could maybe put the sentiment down. If you're doing a graduation or, something, an anniversary, something different. Anyway, so this card is going to be for my sister-in-law. That's why I bought it. I know it might seem kind of wild to be like, you bought a whole set of things just specifically to make one birthday card. But obviously I'll be able to use it again and again. And you don't even have to use the post. You could just decorate it as a, pretty little cake card. Here's a random non-funeral related fact. I thank you guys for riding this out with me because, there's a lot of things. But anyway, so the name of the cake set is ganache gâteau, and it's spelled G-A-T, I think it's E-A-U, I think is what it is. G-A-T-E-A-U. Yes. And obviously it is French. So is the we typically in America we call them macaroons, but I think they're actually called macarons. But anyway, the French pronunciation obviously leaves that, those T's are silent. And that is actually my maiden name, which I never was a card maker under my maiden name because I started card making when I was engaged, but I didn't really get online about it until after I was married, until after I married the first time. I was a Latavola. But my maiden name is Trabeau, and it's spelled B-O-U-T at the end. So my whole life I was called Tribout, or or some other variation. But it's actually because my dad's people were French Canadian. My last name was French and the T was silent. So it was pronounced Trabeau. So when I, when you do, back in the day, my grandmother, loved all of the family tree genealogy and all that jazz. So I would help her with it because back then I was the one who was most well-versed in technology. Clearly it's passed me by. Let's talk about the card here for a second. So now I have the whole cake together. I am going to use I need to get a new trimmer. I lost it, the trimming blade, but I still have the scoring blade on my Spellbinders trimmer. And so I've scored this. This is a regular A2 size card because I'm just using it for the cake portion. And I'm going to leave that cut edge off on the left-hand side. And that way it's going to create a card base for me, not for the happy birthday, but just for the cake portion. So then that way her birthday cake will open up. It does make it a little challenging because it's just slightly smaller than the rest of your cake. So I normally line up when I'm adhering a card to a card base. I normally line up with the fold because then I could trim off anything that's kind of on the right-hand side. But with this one, I actually ended up, you're going to see I'm going to end up changing it. I actually ended up lining it up with the right-hand side and letting the left side overhang a little because it's my own doing that I had to flip-flop it. It's my own doing that it's a little bit smaller, and that's because of just how I cut it. So, and then of course we're going to add all the details. But anyway, so yeah, I have had a crazy easy last name to mispronounce pretty much my whole life until now. Well, however long it's been, 5-6 years ago. Now it's Taylor, and Taylor's super easy. But I do have people who constantly send me things about 90210, Kelly Taylor from 90210. They're like, oh, did you know that there was a Kelly Taylor? In fact, I did, because when I was alive, when 90210 was on the TV. So here is how I add the glitters to the papers that are not glitter. And you could do this for any of the die cut pieces. This is Stardust Stickles. And the Stardust color in particular takes on the color of whatever is underneath it. So it makes it really easy to make those pink colors that are not glittery, nice and glittery. And they dry pretty quickly too. Here, I was just trimming off the posts because I realized that they were a little bit taller than my happy and I didn't want them to show. So anyway, that Spellbinder sale, the buy one, get one free, is open through tomorrow, the 20th. So I hope that you can find something that works for you. I hope that you guys found this helpful. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I'll catch you on the next video. Bye.